Oh boy. Breaking news, quarterback Deshaun Johnson was arrested earlier this week on multiple charges. We'll talk about that, the impact of the team, his impact to the team last year, and his future in general, whether it's Florida Gators or just for him as a whole. And also Todd Golden signs a whopping contract, a little bit of some good news that we'll talk about towards the end of the show. But let's dive right into it. Deshaun Johnson was arrested on multiple charges on May 2nd and was released a few days later, according to our guy, Zach Goodall, broke the news from 247. So shout out to Zach. So we'll take a look at what he was exactly charged for. And then I'll give you my best thoughts and opinions about it as I can of what our understandings of what these charges are and how they should correlate onto the football field. And we'll take a look at Deshaun Johnson and what he was to the team last year, which was a big asset. But he was charged with first including a third-degree felony for possession of controlled substance. Obviously, felonies are never good, but you could always look to charge those down to misdemeanor. Here's where it gets dicey. Second-degree felony, possession of a firearm during commission of a felony. Misdemeanor, possession of cannabis, less than 20 grams, and a misdemeanor charge of resisting officer without violence. Now, the controlled substance typically means it's a little bit more aggressive than marijuana is, from my understanding, so that could be a multitude of things. Do with what you will with that information. Again, how these things are originally written down or charged can always be adjusted. You bring a lawyer in and say, hey, we're going to charge these things down to a misdemeanor or not a second-degree felony, because a second-degree felony is where things can get very serious. If you take a look in the state of Florida, that you can serve up to 15 years in prison. It's a pretty hefty charge. So if that is the case, that's where the future of Deshaun Johnson and Florida Gator don't seem like they're going to be a happy marriage, okay? Now, that's obviously worst-case scenario. A lawyer can come in and say, hey, the way this was handled, the way this was looked at was not correct. It's a way too harsh of a charge. It should be this. So that's where you guys kind of take a step back, take a breather. Obviously, the first charge and that first initial thing can always be a lot more aggressive than how it ultimately ends up being. But ultimately, I still think it's going to be pretty severe, because even if you do take it from a second degree, are you able to get that down to a misdemeanor, right? If you go to a third degree, there's still going to be some time, some probation there. You've got now essentially a convicted felon. That plays a huge factor into, again, his future of being a part of the Florida Gators. That's the big thing, and his future. You hate to see it. Great young man. Was down in Tampa, and we just had this great conversation with Mr. Clark, Duke Clark, our running back, his dad, about how, look, when he came back home, he saw the transition. He saw his change, because you go back home, you're kind of in this different world. The way these guys ran, the way the groups run, it's very easy to fall back into those old habits. And so you always have to take those things into consideration when they're going back home during these off times of hanging out with the wrong people, hanging out with the wrong group, and finding yourselves in one of these crappy situations like Deshaun is right now. So there's just not enough information. I know it seems kind of weird because, again, the initial charge seems a bit much and a bit aggressive. And UF, they had a spokesperson come out and say, look, we're kind of basically just collecting all of our information and doing what we need to before we make a call on this. And I think it's going to come down to, again, what essentially he will ultimately be charged for in the entire thing. Right now, if it were to stay as is, it doesn't look promising. Again, with the second-degree felony, that ramps things up very tremendously. So I'm not an expert on the law or any stretch of the imagination, but you can take a look at it. Now, we take a look at his production last year, because that's where we as fans are going to feel the sting as well. Over 500 snaps, played a lot of football last year, especially with Jason Marshall going down. Stepped up big time. One of those early on recruits, going into his third year, going into his junior year. A lot of expectation for him. Think about him, Devin Moore, and of course, Kermani McLean. We're going to be big contributors this year in that cornerback room, in a room that I think we have question marks on, but we're excited about because of the talent. This does not help that situation whatsoever. And we just gave Billy and the boys grades getting through the offseason without any turmoil. I spoke too soon. Maybe I jinxed us. Now, these things, again, like anything, you can't control. It's just how it is. But you could see his score there from a 67.4 was the third highest rated cornerback on the team, behind Devin Moore and Jason Marshall. Again, Jason Marshall went down about halfway through the season, didn't get to play an entire season, alongside Devin Moore. Devin Moore was hurt all year last year too. So keep that in mind. Devin Moore and Jason Marshall float around that 72, 71 range. And again, Deshaun was at that 67.4 range. So other guys that got to step up: Jameer Grimsley, Kermani McLean, Josiah Davis, Teddy Foster. There's other cornerbacks there. Jakeem Jackson, obviously, he leaves to go to LSU. He saw some snaps last year too. So big contributor for the Florida Gators that is now uncertain on his future here. Look, if they're able to get these charges handled in the correct in a certain way, you would love for Billy to be able to work through this and keep him on the team. But there's some things your hands are kind of tied of what Billy's going to be able to do. I think a lot of people are going to kind of wait around and see how he handles it. But you got a felony on there. It's going to be a lot harder to navigate through. So I'm sure you guys will give me your thoughts and opinions about it on the severity of it. What do you think? Do you think it's pretty severe? Do you think they're going to be able to get those charges down? If a cop made a mistake, they can make some adjustment on those things. All those things are something to kind of keep into consideration when you're taking a look at these charges. So it's hard to have a true valid opinion on it because of how quickly these things can change. I'm not saying the cop's wrong or anybody's wrong, but we know how these things go. The initial charge isn't always the last standing charge because of in the heat of the moment, people are just writing stuff down. So we'll see how it all plays out, but you hate to see it. I hate to see it for Dejan. I hate to see it for the team, and it's a very unfortunate situation when it seemed as if all things were going well. Like I said, I think I jinxed this last night when we talked about how we haven't had any turmoil rocking and rolling here in the last couple of days. In some positive news, some great news, I think a lot of us were hoping to see this and expecting this. Todd Golden signs a whopping extension worth $40 million into 2031. So glad that we were able to wrap him up just after his third year as a Florida Gator head coach. Locks it in for a long haul. And, you love being able to see coaches have some long tenure, stay around for a long time. And that's what Todd Golden is essentially going to be able to do because his buyout is a fat one. It's similar to Mike Norvell. Hope we don't get Mike Norvell. But if we were to fire him without cause, we would owe him about 85% of what's left on the deal. He would owe the Gator $16 million if he left this year, with the buyout decreasing to $4 million year after year for 26 and 27. So we'll see if he goes to the NBA. It changes a few things as well. But ultimately, the big picture here is the fact that he's getting $40.5 million to stay around and hang out in Florida for the next couple of years and hopefully bring in a few more championships. They're looking like they're doing a great job in the portal so far, trying to ramp back up and look like they never missed a beat. Again, you know how it is. Those things are a gauntlet. But I think he proved himself to a lot of great things over the last couple of years and love the fact that we were able to sign this extension for Todd Golden. And some good news alongside some of the sour news that we had to address at the beginning of the show. So shout out Todd Golden and the boys for locking in that contract. And again, as more information of the Dejan Johnson situation unfolds, we will be talking about it. We'll probably talk about it some more on our show tomorrow. Judd Davis will be joining us, so make sure you guys tune in live for that one at 8:35. Always have a great time on our Wednesday show, which is, in fact, the best day of the week. Smash the like button, subscribe. Let me know again how you guys are feeling down in the comment section below. Till next time, baby. Peace and love.